Yay. Hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
I sure can. And I see Jude, but she's not on, she hasn't unmuted. And I put a screen behind myself so you can see me. instead of being a big glow, the glow is kind of there.
Yeah, I got two glows.
So, and Jude, so Jude, we don't see you and we don't hear you. I know the last time we met, you had a heck of a time getting your Zoom to behave. Let me just. Oh, there she is. I see you. Can you come off mute? Can you hear me? Okay, so you're on mute, so we can't hear you. I'm going to see if I can ask you to unmute. Oh, you're off mute. Can you speak?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hallelujah.
You know, I don't understand why I have to do all these extra things. I used to just be able to sign on, but now I have to go through all these other things. Okay.
Yeah. Well, there we are. Well, so to be efficient, and it's just the three of us at the moment, we never know who's going to join. So I did have a fabulous 5 weeks away. I did not, yeah, I had not, I had actually planned to go back and look at those other documents after we had gone through a little bit more. But if it makes sense to recap these other documents before we proceed, we can certainly do that. And we can have a short meeting tonight. And, I'll have a chance to do more homework between now and the next time we meet. So I don't want to make your time inefficient, but I know, well, Connor, you had sent an email, which I need to go back to. I did pull it up, but so I didn't know what, because I thought we can continue plowing through the document, but if you'd rather that we take a different, look at some other stuff first and then go back, we can do that.
I mean, sorry, Jude first. Sorry.
Go ahead, Connor.
No, I want to move forward, but I do feel like, particularly in the case of the Hurley law, which has been brought up a few times, as a point of wanting to revisit it and wanting to visit it as a point of clarity. I think that maybe even the STR committee, particularly our meeting with Kai Lord Farmer. I mean, one of the benefits of, our approach to this is that it should be relatively easy for all of us to go to the meeting on YouTube and just watch his presentation again. I mean,
well, I had the notes in a document. So if you'd rather go to the YouTube and watch this presentation, we can. If I can pull up the document and the notes that I made as we started to go through it. So however you like to do it is okay.
I suppose it's 6 in one, half a dozen in the other for me, because I remember, the presentation was just particularly good, or even the PowerPoint. You could look at the presentation, we could do lots of stuff. But my point being is, like, particularly between that and Hurley, those are just things I think, if not together, it would just be good for the process for us to revisit it and remember what the takeaways from that were. That also, to a only slightly lesser extent, I think goes for the conversation we had with Granicus. In terms of especially the questions and answers section, and when we were talking about what's possible and how we can think about these things. Anyway, so that's my thinking on that. Happy to go forward either way.
And Jude, what's your thinking?
I think it would be useful to do that. Connor and I both sent emails. It was just more other communities. But it occurred to me that as I was thinking about coming to this meeting, I was thinking, well, there was talk about doing something on Facebook and having some opportunity for people to maybe
Mhm.
participate in the discussion. And I thought, why don't we just do a survey? We could post it on the website, we could post it on social media. And one of the things I would say is you have to put your name and address on it so we don't get a lot of whatever we don't.
Right,
People have to actually say that they live in the town. They can only answer it once.
right.
And just try to get a sense from people, what they're thinking.
Mhm.
Because we're hearing from kind of the same group of people over and over again.
Right.
And I thought, that could be, that's something that could be relatively easily done.
Mhm.
We could draft something, outside of the meeting and then try to work on it together, make sure we cover what
Mhm.
we think needs to be covered. And
Mhm.
anyway, I just thought that might be a good idea for us. Yeah, so I would like to maybe just recap a little bit of where we were because it's been so long. And I do sort of vaguely remember that, yeah, it's been a long time. It's been,
Yeah.
actually, I'm glad you had a nice vacation. It's been kind of a nice break because it's summer,
Yeah.
it's kind
Well,
of
yeah. And it was about a 4,600 mile driving, but we did a lot. We did everything. So,
a lot of
and
miles on your car.
a lot of miles. Yeah, lot of miles, but saw a lot of sights. And anyway,
Nice.
yes. So time to reset and time to certainly a lot of important stuff to do here.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so,
Wait, one more thing. The other thing was, we were talking, and this, of course, I really honestly have other things I've been thinking about, but I seem to remember we said we needed some clarification from the building department about a guest cottage, because I do know, maybe depending on who the building inspector was, there
mm,
are some of those guest cottages that are clearly accessory apartments, but they're called guest cottages. And I'm not sure what they used as a distinction or how this was done, but we might
mm,
want a little more information on that.
okay.
And so that,
Yeah, I
that,
think it's good.
Okay. I mean, because we can look in the current law and see what is the definition of guest cottage, but you raised a really good point, is how they distinguish when they actually do it. Or are they doing exactly what the words in the law says, or are they having something else they're thinking about? So that's a valid question.
yeah. I mean, what I've heard from people, things they've been told is a little different than what we saw when we looked it up.
Right. Okay. Okay. And go by definition. Okay.
So that would be something for us to try to figure out as
Yeah,
well.
okay. So doing a review of the Hurley law, if we wanted to look at it quickly here, I think I can bring that up quickly on my machine. Bring up the document that has what Kai went through. I may have to hunt and peck a little further, but I know that I have it because I have everything. And the Granicus conversation. I guess my thought is, if we want to look at the Hurley law and Kai's presentation, to me that seems very straightforward. The Granicus conversation about what's possible, I see that as being, of the three things, the lesser thing. The reason being that even if we can't do it today, I think we ought to set our sights on what we want to do and then figure out how to do it. So even if Granicus were to say that no matter what Granicus said, my thought is we should figure out what we want to do and then figure out how to make it happen. Whether or not we can make it happen today with Granicus or tomorrow with Granicus or never with Granicus, we should still I think we should start with what we think is the right thing to do. So to me, that's the lesser of the three. I'm happy to quickly look at go to the Hurley law right now, go to Kai's presentation. Take me a minute or two longer to find it, I believe. And then we should think through, if we do a survey. My thought is, by going through the rest of the document we're working on, the three of us, that if we get all the way through it, and maybe we do it with an eye on what should the survey questions be. So instead of the three of us trying to be unanimous and or arm wrestle, or however we get to saying what we want to do, maybe we say, well, some people think this and some think that. Maybe that's what the survey questions are. So my thought is, if we go back to the document we've been working on, the survey questions could come out of, they might come out of our disagreements, right? Anything we agree on, maybe everybody would agree on, and maybe, so in any event, And I'm not sure how detailed you're thinking the survey questions might be, but are there just a few things we think we're going to want to ask, or are we going to have like a 50-question survey or a 5-question survey, or we don't know yet?
I think it's
no.
so I've given this a lot of thought because we were talking about this in February doing this, and it's really, in my opinion, I'm not trying to jam it down anyone's throat, but 5 questions tops, and it should be not including your personal information, you know,
Right.
name, address, essentially identifying you as a Woodstock resident. Or at least as sortable as a potential Woodstock resident, or
Right.
someone who is affected. Like, we shouldn't say that someone who now maybe lives in Saugerties, you know, or whatever, who was in Woodstock for 40 years until they were, you know, whatever it is, you know, should be able to participate, and we shouldn't consider that. But I'm thinking, you know, do you have an interest in an Airbnb, i.e., you know, are you the proprietor of an Airbnb? Do you know someone who is? What is your impression of Airbnbs? Do you know someone who has been positively or negatively impacted by Airbnbs? Have you been positively or negatively impacted by Airbnbs? How so? So I'm not saying that's it, but that's like, to me, that's not just how we'll get to the core of the kind of stories we want to be, you know, soliciting here, but be neutral about it.
Okay, and let me
You
just
know,
say.
I just really started thinking about this really today, because I was thinking about coming to this meeting and thinking, okay, you know, who's going to be there? What are we going to hear? And maybe we need to broaden our reach a little bit. And so I haven't really given precise thought to what should what it should be. But you know, we certainly can all work on it together and come up with what we think makes sense. You know, I just want to go back, Laura. You know, my understanding is that the town board raised the fees on short-term rentals, and I thought, you know, that the purpose of that was to be able to hire Granicus to do a little bit more, a little deeper look at what's going on in the town. I'm just wondering, has any of that happened? You know, any of the modules been purchased or anything different than what I know the county bought something more, or the state, I know there were some more expanded services that were free to us, but I was just wondering if the town has done anything with those fees. And then I don't want to get into this too deeply, but I know there were some people who were protesting the fees, and I don't really need to know how that was resolved or not resolved, but just wondering if if Granicus has been engaged for any of those other modules that they spoke about.
Yeah, well, those are good questions. I don't have a good answer. I heard that the county, you know, they were going for Granicus, and then I heard, well, maybe there were issues. So I don't know what the current status is about who has Granicus and how much. The fees that were coming in, I believe that as opposed to it being a 1-for-1, oh, this fee is going to come in and is definitely going right here. The fees were coming in because it was recognized that there was a lot of work being done by the building department. So the fees were meant to better balance things out, even though it wasn't a 1-for-1. This comes in and it goes down necessarily there. So, and the people that were complaining about the fees, what I can tell you about what I know about the fees, there were a set of people complaining about the fees. And we haven't heard complaints for a while, because when I've been to town board meetings, there's people complaining about other things, but the fee complaints, we haven't been hearing them lately. But the other thing that I'll say, I think it would have been good if we had had the fee, you know, because we have a current STR law, as you know, and it has 3 STR types. And I think it would have been helpful if the fees had been graduated based on the 3 types. The one type, you have the fewest rooms you're renting, the one you have more, but you're still owner occupied, and the one being you're not owner occupied. I think it would have been helpful if the fees had been graduated amongst those 3 types. And Anula actually brought a proposal to the town board saying, hey, let's, you know, after the fact, but let's graduate. And then the people that were opposing the fees screamed and shouted, and she gave up. So instead of her trying to improve, proposing we improve the situation, people were, the people that were complaining just didn't change their complaints. And so she just gave up. So we right now have the one flat fee.
Okay, so what I'm hoping is by what we're doing, there will be more clarification between the different categories. They'll be very, very distinct and separate. And then maybe it would be easier to set the fees. Right now, as I said, those lines are very, very wiggly, right?
Well, they're not too wiggly, because right now the current law says you've got either your owner occupied and you've only got up to 3 bedrooms. The second type of your owner occupied and you got up to 5 bedrooms, and the third type is not owner occupied. So I don't know how much wiggle there is in there.
Well, because people who are non-owner occupied are in there as being owner occupied. Because they were told that if they just registered to vote here, they could be owner, but they're not on the premises. They're not there. They're not really owner occupied. That's what I meant by the wiggly.
Oh, okay. So the definitions are clear, but the people are wiggling their way through them and getting away with it.
Yeah, that's it.
And the question is, how do we verify? How do we put a stop to that? That's an interesting question.
Well, I think we talked about it a little bit. I looked at a few other laws. There's a number of ways you can ask for people for their their income tax forms. You don't have to see the numbers, but you can see the address they put down. You can check on their registration, and you can check on their driver's license. That's about all you can really do.
Right.
And and then the other thing is, that there are penalties written into the law. So if you lie about it, then you're going to get called on it. I mean, I think most people, maybe I'm really naive, but I think most people are honest.
Well, I think most people are, and what you really hear about is the ones that are being sneaky. But the other thing too is there's a scale, right? 100% honest, like 100% dishonest, and people, there's maybe a flow along the scale. And if nobody's checking, somebody who is normally honest might say, well, why bother? Why bother? So I think that if we shore some things up, we'll be encouraging a level of honesty. So
there's also the STAR designation, through the schools that you have to.
Oh, right. Well, there's a good. Is the STAR designation, is that only for people who were senior citizens, or is everybody STAR?
No, I get a STAR.
If it's your primary residence.
Okay, so that's
there's definitely a lot there. I think that's a great way to approach it. We could bake that. That would take care of a lot of this.
Well, it would. And so my other question is, do you suppose, is that public record or is that private information?
I'm pretty sure it's got to be public record to some extent, or at least it's the kind of thing you can get. In our case, we should be able to get a thumbs up or down on. I mean, it's well, I don't know, but that's a good question too. I'm gonna try and look it up.
I think it might even say, and I'm not positive, but it may even say on the tax rolls. When you go to the assessor roll.
Oh, cool. That's.
It may.
Well, but it's a really good point, because we're actually not asking personal information. We're asking address information. Is this address a STAR designated address? So if we ask the question, if we ask the question that way, that I wonder whether that's considered personal, and so that's a really good, excellent point, actually.
I really think, I looked at some, I mean, I haven't done this in a while, but looking at other towns and what they require when you bring in your application, you have to show this document, you have to show this document, you have to show this document.
Sure.
If you're occupied, you have to come with these things that you have to present.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily even that you have to hand them over as much as you have to just go there and show.
Right. And that's a really good point too.
Because that, do you want somebody having I listen, everybody's so fearful of identity theft and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know that anybody wants to have a copy of your driver's license. You know what I mean? But
right.
They may want to see it, and they may want to see tax return, you can cover up everything except your address. You know, I know some people, listen, you know, I understandably, you know, some people, they register one person to vote up here and one register, you know, if there's two people in the household, one person to register down in the
Right.
city.
Right. Right.
Some people would rather, you know, have their income tax here because they don't have to pay New York City income tax then. So I don't know, there's got to be some ways for us to figure this out, and but also I think you know there has to be, you know, if it's not, if it's not true, I think that one of the things that I put in there as a penalty is if you have misrepresented your status, then this is the fine and you lose your.
Right.
And I think people have to know that right off the bat. You know, it's like, yeah, you can try to pull the wool over somebody's eyes, but eventually
Right.
probably catch up with you and cost you some money.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it's not, listen, nobody wants to be doing this, but you know, at some point, the only way it's going to get under control is to find a way to enforce it. And, you know,
Right. Yeah.
and to give the building department some tools to try to help them do it. So they're not, you know, so it makes it a little easier and give them some clarity.
Yeah. Okay. And those are all good. Those are all good points. And it's a good point too to say you have to show things even though you don't have to turn them over, but you have to, you know, you have to come in and show your driver's license, or the star address designation. And I do wonder whether the clerk's office has that or if the assessor has that. That's a very interesting. I mean, the state has it, but in terms of whether they share it, it's, yeah, that's the question.
I could be mistaken and I can check after the meeting, but I'm pretty sure it's on the tax rolls. It says star. And
Yeah.
it doesn't say necessarily, there is a senior citizen one, which does, you know, if you're below a certain income level, you get an additional break. I don't think it differentiates like that, but I think it might say, I may say star. But the assessor would certainly have it. Because they, yeah. And so we can figure all that out. But they're just, you know, like I said, a lot of tools.
Right.
You know, maybe you have to come with all of them, and then you have to also be handed this sheet of paper that says, you know, I swear that this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. So yep. So okay. So we've talked about a number of things. So and that's a really good point. Is how do we enforce? You need to verify. Okay. So we do need to verify, and we do need to enforce. So that's a good item. So the questionnaire, if you want, I can bring up a Word document and I can share it and we can be typing in, or I know I made notes as Connor talked. And I'm not sure whether the thought is we want the more general questions, but I guess the more general questions is trying to get a sense of, are people impacted? Some people might be positive impacted, some might be negatively impacted. So if we ask about people being impacted, we should ask both. Are there positive, you know, are you positively impacted? Do you know somebody who is? Are you negatively? Do you know somebody who is? Because there are some people that get more business. Like if somebody owns a restaurant in town, they might say, oh, I'm glad we have more tourists in town. If you get somebody that's looking for an apartment, they're going to say, this is terrible, I can't find an apartment. So it would be interesting to.
Yeah, that's the point of having people identify who they are. So we understand where they're coming from. You know, I think I told you one of the when I have conversations with people about this, universally, people say, for the residents who are, this is their primary residence and they can be on the premises, go for it. Everything else, people are not so crazy about the idea. So I don't know how we get that across, and I don't know if we want to hammer that out or if we want to just start passing a document between us.
Hammering which out?
Offline, yeah.
But I think having the survey, because I have someone else that's joining. Heather Cross wants to join. I just admitted Heather. So, but I do think it's a really good idea. I do like the idea of a survey because each of the three of us has an opinion about what in general people in the town want. But I do think that it's a very smart idea to see if we can gather some feedback. And so some ways to do is we can announce at a town board meeting that we're doing a survey. We can get a story in the Hudson Valley One. We can have it on the website. We can have it on the Facebook page that has a link to it if we do the survey. I know that if you send a postcard out to everybody in town, it's like about a $6,000 postcard to send it to everybody. So we might be able to, just by doing things online, get enough people. And I definitely like the idea of finding a way to verify that the same person hasn't answered twice. That's a definitely good idea. So if you want, and welcome, Heather. I see you're on mute, but welcome. But again, if you want, I'm happy to bring up a Word document, share my screen, and we can flush some things out. Or if you both want to think about it, because I know Connor has in his mind, some things he thought, Jude, maybe you want to go offline and think about it. So I'm happy to either try to flush that out here or do it later.
Like I said, that's where I landed after a lot of thought on it. So if whatever you guys need to do, I'll be here for feedback and punch ups and everything. My whole thing is like, let's just get it out there. Let's just do it. And all I would say is, like, I do in my spare time like to read a lot of books about neuroscience and cognitive biases and stuff, and just how you ask these questions is really, you really don't want the survey. Like, if you have to elicit a positive or negative response, then give permission to do either, or to be free. That's what I'm trying to do by using that language. But what I'm really not trying to do is elicit a particular one. That should hopefully, I want ultimately to reinforce our faith in whatever comes our way. Like, once we all see, what we're seeing, and hopefully, especially if we push it still, I think Hudson Valley One's a good idea too, like, get it out there, and hopefully it will help us do our job.
Right. So my thought is Hudson Valley One, town Facebook, and then town website. Because
and then also, maybe some people will pick it up and post it on social media, that.
Oh, there you go.
Well, yeah. So I don't have Facebook, but I know there's some Woodstock pages that a lot of people look at.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I belong to a lot of those groups. So as soon as it's with me, I can certainly distribute it there. But, if it wouldn't, I think, be a bad idea to just, encourage anyone we know to also share it, who has any interest in this, and try to, give some win, in the sales.
Right. No, but I think that I really think that is a good idea, because I know the three of us have strong opinions, and they're for good reason, but it would be really nice to hear the town's opinions, because that will help guide us, I believe. So I think that's an excellent idea. So did you want to be thinking about it? We come back and do it, or you want me to whip up a Word document and we start typing it?
Unless y'all feel really, like you need to take time, I don't have much to add to it at this point, but if you feel strongly about it, let's go for it.
This is what I would suggest. Connor really has it. He's been thinking about this for a long time. He's really got it worked out. Let's start with his. And I would like to give it some thought, because like I said, it just occurred to me before the meeting that this is something we should do. And I agree with you 100%, Connor. The way you ask questions. I mean, we know this about polls and surveys all the time. You can always, you can always push people in a certain.
It's really easy. Like, you can, there have been entire fields of, medicine that blocked gateways to knowledge just because of the way they practiced it. The interstitium. There's a whole new human organ discovered because of an accident that was a step missed in common medical practice. It's incredible. I find it very interesting.
Okay. Well, the idea is, if I brought up a Word document now, I would type in what Connor said, and I may add some of my thoughts to it and then send it off and we incubate, or that would be my thought.
That works.
Let's do that. Sounds fun.
Okay.
At least
So,
we get something started. That would be great. And
okay.
and asking for someone's name and their address, and then there could be a question that follows that. Are you a former resident of Woodstock who no longer could, who's no longer here, but not by choice, or I don't know how you would word that, but we could give that opportunity too. Somehow.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Just to address what Connor was saying.
Okay. So I've got a page, and let me do a share. I'm going to see how this goes here. Yay. Okay. So, and then of course, when I have it here, then of course I can't move it. I got to go move it. I have to unshare while I move this to the right spot. Sorry. Because once I share my screen, then it covers up the thing at the top that lets me move it. There we go. All righty. Now I can share, and we should be in the right spot. So I'm just going to start typing what I heard Connor say. So it's this thing over here. So we'll call it intro questions. And then we have survey questions. Okay, so the survey questions, I'm actually going to start there. So the survey questions, we had.
They were, oh, did you write them down already?
I did write down, well, the personal information questions, we can kind of.
I can repeat them if you want.
No, I did write a bunch down. So let me, so are you a current Woodstock? And how will, so is there anything, will we be asking for an address, or what, will we be asking anything, or just, are you a current Woodstock?
Oh, no, I think we have to ask for a name and an address. Absolutely.
Okay. If not, okay, we'll start there. If not, were you a Woodstock?
I think we should, I think they should be separated.
Meaning?
Meaning, are you a current Woodstock resident? Then the next, that's a yes, no question. Then the next question is your name. The next question is your address. Then the next one is, I can't see it because I'm on a laptop, but if not, were you a Woodstock resident or something like that? Then
Yeah.
Name, address, were you a Woodstock resident who was unable to find housing in Woodstock or something, to remain in Woodstock or something.
Okay, well, so okay, let me, because you're ahead of me there. So are you, okay, so let me just, I'm going to indent these. Are you current Woodstock resident? If yes, your name and address. If not, were you a Woodstock resident? And what was your other thing, Jude?
I said, were you a Woodstock resident who has been unable to find housing in Woodstock, or to remain in Woodstock, or something along those lines? Connor, help.
Well, I worry about that being a leading question. In a way, that's a leading question, because we just want to know whether someone lives here or doesn't, correct?
Well,
I mean,
those people, so.
No, go, what were you saying, Jude? I didn't hear that.
No, you wanted to include people who say were residents of Woodstock, but had to move to Saugerties because they couldn't find housing. So I'm just trying to differentiate people who live here.
So if I could make a little suggestion then about how I'm not saying we have to change it all up, but like we could condense this to essentially people just need to share their current address. I mean, we're not going to ask them for their former Woodstock address, I think, in this survey. Right. I don't think that would be appropriate. So we can start with name, like on the form, it can be your name and your address. And then if it's not a Woodstock address, the question can be phrased, are you a current or former Woodstock resident? Because unless we want to just draw special distinction, because to me, hearing hearing from former Woodstock residents who were so impacted by this that it drove them from town. That is the I do believe we will elicit those stories from them primarily by asking, have you been impacted, or has someone you know been impacted? That's the whole point of those sections. So I guess what I'm getting at is, and I'm sorry, I'm really on a bend about these biases. Survivorship bias. In World War II, all these planes went out to sea, and they were trying to do those dog fights, and the army wanted to fix their planes so they'd be better, equipped to handle the attacks. But they were only studying the planes that came back. They weren't studying they weren't studying the planes that fell in the ocean, and that is survivorship bias. And there's a little bit of that if we don't maybe bake in that equality of consideration. Are you a current or former in one question?
But see, okay. So we're just finding out. We'll find out by saying it this way. Are you a current? If somebody's a current Woodstock resident, and if they were a Woodstock resident, so you just want to ask, are you a current or former Woodstock resident?
So essentially, the question would be, are you a current or former Woodstock resident? And essentially, the only thing that would maybe arguably devalue their submission is if they say no, and they put an address that isn't a Woodstock, New York address. If the answer to that is no, then then it should be considered as some outside opinion. Maybe it's a good one. I'm not saying we ignore it. I'm not saying it has to go in a fire or anything, but that if that's the goal, is to discern who is a Woodstock resident who's been affected, then that question just answers it, and we can have the name and address be just title information, and then question one, bam.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to.
Okay.
I would like to put a disclaimer on there that just says something like, the results of the survey will not be shared publicly.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. They're only for the use of the whatever we want to say. But I think we need to let people know, if they put their name and addresses, that nobody else is going to see it except us, essentially.
So, and the one question that I think I will need to ask a FOIL question, because if somebody FOILs and they say, oh, but you have this information, if they FOIL, I guess my question is, do we have to give it at that point? So the intro questions really is, we're going to ask their name, we're going to ask their address, and then the survey questions are you a current or former Woodstock resident? And we've already asked the name and address. So that's just going to be a survey question, if you're current or former. So one question would say, do you have a Woodstock Airbnb? So I guess I might rather, was thinking of injecting bias. I might rather just go to say, do you know people? Are you or do you know people? I start with positive by STRs in Woodstock. And then comments.
So those will be yes, no's, and then there'll be a place for them to write.
Yeah, right, yeah. And then, are you people negatively impacted? Impacted by STRs in Woodstock. Whoops.
I would though make the second question like before the sort of story time section.
Mhm.
Do you have financial interest in an STR? Do you or a relative? Do you or someone you live with have a current financial interest in an STR? And I think it's important to know that against the submission. It's certainly not a shameful thing to have that, and it doesn't dictate what they have to say.
But if somebody has a financial interest, then they might be positively impacted, and that may be part of their comments.
Yeah, and at the same time, I mean, I think I suppose it would be important. I think to some extent important information to know if, well, I guess there's that too. I mean, is because the on the I suppose that is I suppose that's true. But I still feel like it's good information for us.
So that would be in the intro, probably then, as part of um
Yeah.
Is your is maybe, and again, I'm trying to think if this is a less even charged way of phrasing it, but is your residence an active Airbnb, an active STR?
mhm.
I just
But
feel like the interest part of it is more gives you more distance. It can still give more permission just to participate, to say, yeah,
but
I have.
if we're pegging who's got an STR, then when you talk about bias, I think that's immediate bias. That's my concern. Is you're saying, do you have an STR? And now we think that you're going to be biased as you answer all these questions. But if we just say, do you know people positively impacted by STRs? They may say, yes, I own an STR, and this is how I'm able to keep my house. It may come out in the answer.
I mean, that's fair. What do you think, Jude?
I think that anybody who has an illegal STR is never going to answer that question.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to get too much of that either.
Well, that's true. But the other thing too is if we have people's address, we can match it against the building department who has STRs.
Right. I don't know if there's I mean, there may be a list. I never saw a list of the ones that are not registered. The building department probably is aware of them, but I never saw that list. So I couldn't say. But I guess we could check to see, I don't know who's going to do all this.
So the other question that I would, what's that? Go ahead.
That hopefully Granicus.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully Granicus. So here's the other question I would ask. Do you believe the that I don't know how the right way to say this, STD, that's not the right way.
That's not the right one.
We're not going there. Do you believe the STR? And this is kind of, well, I just type it. I want to change it because this isn't exactly right. Number in Woodstock is, say too many about right. Need more. I wouldn't think anybody would say need more, but what do people think? Is it too many about right? Need more. Again, the STR and numbers not the word I really want, but the NCR present, here's a better word, is too many about right.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good start at that section. I mean, like I said, I don't think it needs to be much more than 4 or 5 questions. So I feel like this really does get pretty close to the heart of it.
I do think there has to be some question about the primary residence having them as opposed to non-owner occupied.
Mhm,
Because I think people do feel differently about them.
mhm.
And, some people say, well, there are too many non-owner occupied, but there's not, but I don't care if they're
Mhm.
owner occupied. But we're not giving them the opportunity to differentiate. And I'm not sure that they would know they have that opportunity unless we put it out there. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Somebody could look at that and go, well, I think we have too many of these and not enough of those. I don't think people would think to mention that unless we put some kind of question out there.
And here's kind of injecting bias, but let me just get the idea out there.
Right.
Sure.
Or- So whatever their answer is, would the response to the SDR presence change?
Well, we don't, but then that doesn't really give us an indication of how it would change.
Well, please explain in comment field is what's hopeful.
I mean, I'm going to want to sit with this for a while, for sure.
That's fine. We're not putting this out
Yeah.
today.
And one of the reasons I'm a little reticent to throw in even too much terminology is because it's just a kind of pivot point for people to misunderstand and misread what it might be really clear to us, but even, we should probably have it somewhere on here. STR equals short-term rental, I mean,
Yeah, just typing it in as we speak.
Yeah.
yeah. And so I definitely get the value of that information, but I just don't know if there's a way to ask it where we could get a lot of informed good. Can you scroll down a little bit? I can't.
Well, I've got everything on one screen, so I could scroll down,
Yeah,
but there's
there.
nothing else below what's on my
That's,
screen.
yeah,
I've got
there we go.
questions 1 through 5.
I could see it now. It's behind your faces.
Okay.
So just thinking about that question. Yeah, I'll need to think about that one now too. But is there any? I feel like that extended on it, and maybe just a place for general comments,
Ah,
and could is the answer. I don't think any more questions than that will be just I guess gilding the lily.
okay. So first of all, yes. So this is a yes, no thing. Are you, and there's a yes, no, and then please explain as a comment field. Um, so this is a yes, no, explain as a comment field. Yes, their presence too many about, right? Need more. Please explain as a comment field. Would your response change if I? Yes. No. Please explain. Okay. So I'm going to put the responses in blue. Yes, no. Okay, so we can incubate this, think about it. So it's kind of a start, and we've done our best to remove bias, but it's of interest to say if you're a current or former Woodstock resident, then it's nice to know that. Um, and I can say, please explain the impact. I can, if it's okay, I can go ahead. Please explain the impact, because that's kind of what I want to know. Explain the impact. Explain. Well, so can I add to 6? Are there additional STR comments that you would like to add? Can I add to 6? Would you like to make, do you have any STR recommendations? Is that a good thing to add to 6? I'll type it in and I can take it out if you don't like it.
Maybe, I mean, you can sit there for now. I want to keep it open to whatever kind of feedback we haven't received. I feel like people inclined to share their specific recommendations will do so. But if someone wants to extrapolate on, personal anecdotes, that's sort of, in many ways, that could be fine too. I mean, the emotionality of this issue isn't something that should be lost on us.
Okay, I made it 2 separate questions. Any additional comments you'd like to add? And then well, to make that the final thing, I can say, do you have any STR recommendations? Of course, I'm going to add with the word Woodstock.
I think I want some kind of comment under the intro questions. If you don't provide this information, we can't consider your comments.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. If you're not willing to give your name.
Mm-hmm.
But I do wonder if there's some way that we can protect this.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you can find out about.
Yeah, that's probably a conversation for who's the town attorney now? It's not John Lyons, is it?
Rod.
Well, we have different attorneys for different things.
Right.
So I have to go verify the town attorney who'd be the right one to ask the question for this.
Right. But I do think we have to say required information or something required, or something, because it's just because somebody could just go through and do 10 or 20 of these without a name.
Right.
Yeah, it's always a problem. People don't like giving their name, but unless you're mailing out paper ones to residents or something like that, there's no way. You put it online, there's no way to control who answers it unless you ask for their name and address.
Right.
Right.
We have to investigate if we can keep them confidential, because
I feel like that should be reasonable, though. I mean, if someone wants to foil it, you can redact the personal information and still see a quantifiable amount of input that with whatever their opinions were. It's not important who said it.
I think that's right. That's a good way to put it, Connor. Can that be rejected?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why things anonymous entries will be separately.
Oh, see, I would just say anonymous entries will not be considered. That's what I would say. I wouldn't.
That's what I would do too. I mean, like we're trying to. I mean, I feel like anonymous submission on the internet is just asking for trouble. You'll filter out so much nonsense by not allowing that.
Maybe submissions rather than.
And I mean, it can be for us or somebody, or like, it can be for us to, ask for, in fact, we should have an email address in this form as well that,
Well, I want to look up how, I was on the comprehensive plan committee. I know that when we did our survey, they had some way when people did it online, they had some way that the results were just collected and then the results were, we got a report. So we need to figure out our tool for this. So name is a required field, address is a required field, anonymous entries.
I said submission.
A submission. Well, we can make it so they can't submit it.
Oh. Good point.
Yeah, I mean, you make those required fields. I still think you're going to need to take an email address too.
Is that so we can contact people?
It'll be another. I think it's more so as a point of authentication.
Well,
just to say,
and so it's a required field. It still won't submit, but no submissions.
I guess we don't need it, but I do feel like it might be useful.
Or address that cannot be verified will not be considered. So you won't be able to submit it without, but if we can't verify,
right? I like
if we can't verify the name or address, then we're not going to consider. So they can't submit it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Required fields, excellent.
Yeah. So I just put it this way. Let's do it this way. Field required for form submission. So they can't even submit the form if they haven't got it filled out. But if we can't verify it, then we're not going to consider it because, whoops, come back.
Okay, I think this is a great start.
Okay. And should say will not or cannot?
Cannot.
Okay. Okay. So why don't I send this to each of you and we'll and so I will need to investigate. Let me do a save. I'll need to investigate how we can get this out. I'll need to mention to Bill that we're thinking of getting it out, and that I think this is a healthy thing because we're only allowing real people to respond. They can live anywhere. We haven't required they be a Woodstock resident, but we'll know from the address whether they are or whether they're not. And so when we say address, should we say primary address?
Yes. Maybe. Yeah. Don't want people putting PO boxes on there and getting the wrong idea.
Okay, street address. I can just say street address.
Yeah.
Street address. Okay.
It's a primary street address.
What was that?
You could say primary street address.
Well, so do we want to say prime? Excuse me. So we want to say primary.
I don't know, because there are people, I mean, I think that if we're trying to include everybody in this.
Because second homeowners.
They might be their second home, and I don't think we want to exclude them from the conversation. Right?
Fair enough. I just wonder, if we don't make that distinction, will they just get the same? Should they get the exact same consideration as a full-time resident?
We could just say,
or a former resident mobbed out,
So maybe there's a question: is this your primary residence?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
And then there's a way to distinguish that.
Check this box if.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. No. Okay. I think we.
Here's my only thing too. Now that I'm thinking about this, in terms of the required field, technically, some people might not have a primary address, and thinking about it on those terms and who we need to be hearing from, again, is survivorship bias. Like, maybe street address shouldn't be a required field, but
I think it has to be.
if they say, for example, if we get a submission that says NA and it says, are you a current or former Woodstock resident? Yes.
But anybody, the reason for the address is just to verify that they're a real person. Because you could just make up names and we have no way of, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
I guess all I'm getting at is, it's again, and I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but I know more than a couple people who have couch surfed and car hopped their way through 2 jobs just in this town. Just working in this town.
Well, we've just asked them.
We can say no.
Yeah, we've just asked them, is your primary residence? They can say yes or no, but we're not saying that's going to make you not considered. We're just saying if we can't verify the street address with a name or street address, they cannot be verified. We're just saying if we can't verify the street address or their name, they're not going to be considered. If we can't figure out that they're a real person, and frankly, some people give family of Woodstock as their primary address, and we know nobody lives there, but that's where some people,
Sure.
That's what some people use. So they can use a street address that's not actually theirs, but I think it's a start. I think we'll get a sense. I think we don't have to be it doesn't have to be ironclad for us to get a sense of who's a real person and who's not. So I think that we've done it here. And we'll get a sense, because if we get 500 responses of nothing we can verify, then that's an issue. I'm guessing that we've made the point here that we want to be able to verify real people. And this is probably enough to get 500 people from, we don't want the ballot box stuffed, right, with people that aren't really real. So I think we've done enough here. My sense is we've done enough here to say, hey, we want serious answers.
Sure.
So
I guess I just have to be prepared to make some exceptions or do a little research, because some of the people there is an underclass of homeless people, working homeless people, that should be considered and be given space to be considered in this, especially in this specific survey.
So what is the best way to accomplish that, do you think?
Well, yeah, I'm grappling with it a little bit. My knee-jerk instinct is to have a yes or no. Are you currently or formerly unhoused? Underneath that introductory.
Well, so here's another way to say it is, so let me just throw this as are the unhoused people you're thinking of, do any of them not have a cell phone, for example?
Very rarely. I don't know if it's like a holdover from Obama or whatever, but like everybody has a cell phone. Everybody in there has a cell phone. So getting access to social media is practically ubiquitous. Having an address, less.
Right, right. Well, I know that from school. Yeah, kids who were unhoused, who were constantly in motion. Everybody had a cell phone. They figured out, yeah, because it's essential these days, you know. Okay, I think we got something to work with. I think we can all, you know, kind of like you said, incubate, percolate, and then.
The only reason I don't want to give necessarily a straight up alternative to submitting an address is because I want to really make it, I do want to put importance on submitting an address. It is going to be our best way to verify people, but I feel like having a checkbox or something as part of the question that says, are you currently or formerly unhoused, just gives us the opportunity to look at it with that eye. So if the address is blank, but that's checked, you know, that thing.
You know, couldn't, you know, if somebody could put in the address field, temporarily something, right? We're not gonna make the address field so strict that they couldn't put something in, and then they could put, you know, in the survey questions below, they could put some kind of comment there. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I just wonder.
It's tough. I would rather do that than have the alternate contact information part, just because saying if address is not available, then like you said, Laura, some people are going to run with the, well, what does it matter then? I'll be a little dishonest right now and not.
And everybody's gonna say, so if we take this out, what are we doing in place?
I mean, personally, I think just either in the survey questions or as a yes or no under street address, are you currently or formerly unhoused? And it can be yes or no, or rather not say, you know, and that's it. It's just to help us whittle it down in a way that, and this also could be a vehicle to better understand that metric of, you know, have you been affected by the fallout of this? Because we're targeting people and talking about it through the lens of short-term rental. So without saying, has short-term rental impacted your living situation, we're just asking, are you currently or formerly unhoused? And if it pertains to that, they have plenty of opportunity through multiple comment sections to extrapolate or not.
Right.
But let me ask you this though, by saying street address, I mean, doesn't everybody know somebody that they could use their street address? I mean, if you said you have to have your street, I mean, I'm just saying, I hate to ask on here, are you unhoused? Because when you say bias, you want to keep bias out of here. Putting the word unhoused anywhere in the survey, I think people are gonna think in that direction. Oh, now this is for the, if you're unhoused, now we want to know. But if you just say, street address field required for form submission, I feel very funny asking if you're currently unhoused, because most people that would be unhoused, wouldn't they know that they could use family Woodstock's address, or wouldn't they have some relative that they would just use the relative's address, or
I mean,
in their car for years on end?
it's really, it's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to, I know it can be hard to imagine, but I do know more than one person who would qualify. I'm sorry, there's someone coming home, on paper as an orphan. I don't know about having no family, but certainly no immediate family in terms of relation or proximity even.
Well, so tell me again. I mean, I really feel funny about it.
I just want to point out that Heather Cross made a comment, and again, we can take time to think about this a little more, and maybe come back as another draft. But what did she say? She said you could put in the instructions that unhoused people are welcome to complete the form and should put their last known address and indicate that they are currently or formerly unhoused. It's just a how do we address the part of it, where we are welcoming of that and don't feel like there's no place for it, while also not stigmatizing it. Again, we have part of whether or not that kind of a question even makes it onto this survey should be whether or not this form or that part of the form will be foilable.
Right.
Because if it is, I don't think we should ask it. I don't think then I don't think we should at all. But I think it could be.
So what if we? So I just added that current or last street address. If we say current or last street address, does that solve?
Sure. Oh, maybe. Yeah. I kind of.
I think it does.
Yeah. Sure. That's a good thing.
It lets them fill it in, and we're not, and that way we don't have to identify unhoused, but it gives them additional opportunities.
Current or former. That's fine. I think we're good. I think we should.
I think that's reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think we should sit with this for a little while and see what we think. And Laura's got to find out some information about
how we do this.
How we can protect personal information. I think we can
keep this portion
right.
of the survey. This whole part of it we want to keep confidential.
Right.
So I'm going to make the font a little smaller because it'll be easier to read all on one page if we make the font a little smaller. Go to 12 here. I don't know if you can read that because you guys have, I can read it because I'm on my machine, but you guys are reading it on a different.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm also going to write in here how to distribute survey.
There's SurveyMonkey, which we could use. It's
how do we
say that's a possibility. I think you get a link and then we just you announce it at a town board meeting, we can circulate it with the papers, we can get people to post it on Facebook, put it on the town website.
Right.
I don't know if there's another app that they use for surveys. I don't know if you guys do them, but that's a possibility.
To how to do. So I think in SurveyMonkey is how we do the survey. Let me get back down to 12 here. And then how to announce the survey. Yes, that's what we were saying before.
And also, is it secure? I mean, if we're, asking for any kind of personal information.
Right. This is it in red. Investigate if we can keep this portion of the survey. This intro questions portion of the survey confidential. Town board meeting, Hudson Valley.
And I see that for the red. from us, like in terms of someone foiling the documents, but I also
Right.
mean just the platform. Is SurveyMonkey the appropriate platform for even a tangentially government survey?
Right. Yeah, town website too.
Yeah, well, hang on. I need to catch up. I'm trying to do 5 things at once. That doesn't always work well. Okay, Facebook, town website. Okay, town, Facebook town website. Encourage people to share with their contacts. Okay, so this, second, was that you?
You said you wanted to put Hudson Valley 1.
Yeah, it's here.
Oh, I see it so little now, I can't read it.
Well, let me see if I can do 13, because 12 was a little, 14 was a little too big. Let me see if I'm gonna see if I can say 13. So 13 is a little bigger than 12.
Okay.
Okay, so the survey, how to announce it, town board meeting, Hudson Valley 1 Facebook website. Encourage people to share with their contacts, including their social media. How to do the survey, SurveyMonkey. Okay, so in the intro questions, confidential. This was will all data be kept secure, right? And then the survey questions.
Okay.
So I just put another space there. I'm putting some spaces in here just to. Cool. Okay, cool. So this is excellent. Now, so next time, our next meeting, official meeting, is in 2 weeks. So do we want to come back and really look at, now that we've had a chance to think about the survey? I know we talked about taking another look at the Hurley Law, which talked about looking at Kai's presentation. We talked about the Granicus conversation. So do we want to, I know we said building department, I guess cottage definition. So what do we want our next meeting to be? We'll start with a survey. Do we also want to be looking at the Hurley Law, or Kai's re-looking at that, or just do the survey and just take it one step at a time?
I certainly think we should, because it's come up so much over the last year and change, now seems, and I mean the time in between this meeting and the next seems like a good time for us to go and re-examine some of those documents, maybe not just even the Hurley Law and Kai's private presentation, but I know that separately I and Jude have been sending articles and stuff from other states and examples of how things have I know in some cases at least a few things have changed since the NOLA law, and we should be like keeping ourselves kind of up on the current events of this to know, like, you know, kind of what's happening out there and how people are responding to it. I think it's a good time to just, you know, tap back into that vein and become interested and connected to the issue. And then, as far as I'm concerned, if we all do that, we can start to plow ahead on the document again and hopefully have a renewed sense of you know, purpose and mission from all of us having reviewed the same information. Particularly, you know, those articles and those expert presentations. But as far as the survey goes, last thing I turn it over, I think, you know, I could probably be fine to send it out for like, to start thinking about posting it within the week. I don't know that, but that's me.
Well, I know that Jude started out by saying she'd like to think about it. So,
right. So I don't.
You know,
well,
The other thing I think we should consider is how long do we want to make this be available for 2 weeks, 4 weeks? We're
Mhm.
only going to take responses in a certain time frame. I think we
I
have to,
think,
I think we have to state that. Otherwise, we could be getting things, back, in
yeah,
next year.
I think 4 weeks is fair.
Yeah.
Because I think 2 weeks, people might have, oh, I just found out about it, right? 4 weeks gives us a chance to disseminate that there is a survey and people can get back to it. So I would recommend 4 weeks.
And there's a little part of me that thinks that, realistically, it's the end of summer. People aren't paying attention. They're not thinking about anything. I know we want to keep things moving and we can still continue to keep things moving, but I'm wondering if we should wait until the end of August to get this to unveil this, because I just think everybody's
Maybe
mind
that's
going back to school or going back to getting back from vacation or going on their last vacation. And
that's true.
I think,
That's true.
yeah.
Well, so let's, I'm pulling up my calendar. I'm not sure if you can see it on my screen when I pull up my calendar, but
I can.
maybe we should say open for the whole month of September.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Now, I'm sorry, I don't remember if I shared this with you guys or not. I think I did. I am actually not going to be here on the 26th.
Oh, okay.
I don't. Yeah, it's looking pretty bad.
Well,
I am coming back from North Carolina. I am going to a fiddle retreat.
well, good for you. Hey, I had my vacation and I'm all in favor of, sometimes it's just, sometimes it's just right to get away. So
It's more like school than a vacation, but I think it will be fun.
well, it's something that you want to do, right? It's something you want to do.
Yeah.
So here's the question that I have, and that is, I'm actually available. So the 26th doesn't work. I would be available on the 19th. I would be available on, well, the next Monday is Labor Day, so I'm not going to volunteer to be available on Labor Day. But would we want to try to talk in a week, or would we rather just chill and just wait until the second Monday in September? Because we might be able to, with emails. Let me just go pull the survey back up again so you can see it. We might be able to, with emails, because we feel like we're close with this, right? So with emails, we might be able to get this off the ground with emails. But I guess I'm thinking, and for some reason, my calendar, which normally just comes up, is there it is, came up that time. So if we say this is going to be open from September 1st to September 30th, that's one option that we're going to try to do this, have open. Let me just write this here, September 1 through 30, and then that handles
I think
avoids.
I think the timing of that is good. The month of September, I think that's really good. Much better than starting it now.
Right. Okay. So the goal. Okay.
I guess I would just say then doubly that I would hope, I know I can set there. I'm very, very busy, busier than I've ever been, but I know I can set aside at least a portion of an afternoon to review the stuff that we've talked about, at least those two in particular. And I'd certainly like to go over some of the more current events stuff just to, like, again, refresh my perspective. So if we can all do that and like really commit to it, I'm into the first or second, I guess it would be the second week of September.
Well, yeah, it'd be the second Monday. So it'd be the 9th.
But with the idea though being that let's get this survey, maybe the thing to do is get this survey out on and around Labor Day, try to pump it with some of the Labor Day. If we have, I'm willing to throw 5, 10, 20 bucks into boosting it on Facebook or whatever, but like, yeah. I guess the idea being, as long as we get those two things done where we're rehashing the information on our own and together inching that survey forward, that sounds like reasonable goals that will help us make a better product.
Well, I'll take, I mean, I consider myself to have to do two things. One is, well, first of all, I'm going to send the survey out to each of you so that you can incubate it. I will talk with, I'm supposed to be talking with Bill tomorrow anyway. I'll talk with Bill tomorrow that we want to do this. And it's really kind of zero cost. I don't know how much SurveyMonkey costs, but you know, we're not spending $6,000 doing postcards. We're
No.
gonna social media our way out. We're gonna Hudson Valley One, you know, talk about the town board, town Facebook, town website, Hudson Valley One, encourage people to social media it out. So we're looking to have a zero cost pretty much in terms of getting the word out. And then it's just a matter of does SurveyMonkey charge us? And so I need to investigate SurveyMonkey and the security of the data, and also making
so
sure that.
Corrupt. I just want to let you know my tablet is warning me it's running out of juice and I am
Okay.
not near a charger. So if I drop out, that's what that is. But
Okay,
no.
so I'm gonna tell, real quick though, so I am gonna tell Melanie we're canceling the August 26th meeting. Just,
When is the first town board meeting that you could talk about this?
hopefully tomorrow. Is it premature to mention that we're planning this tomorrow? I mean, I can say tomorrow,
No,
expect a survey, we're working out the details, but that's the plan. It's too premature to say.
Isn't there
No,
another meeting after that?
Well, the next meeting after that is a week later. I will be on Zoom on that meeting, honestly. So for me to talk about it in person, it would need to be tomorrow, or it can be the 1st September meeting, but then we'll have hoped to have it out.
I do. I think that's fine. My only comment on that is that, you know, I don't want to be going through the permission structure of the town. Like if they will, the best thing and really the only thing they can do to support us is to put it on the website and share it on their Facebook page.
Mhm.
And I think it should be incumbent upon us to distribute it regardless of whether that happens.
Well, sure. So my plan is to talk to Bill McKenna about it tomorrow. And if he raises an issue and says, oh no, this is a horrible idea, well, then, you know, then I'll come back to you two. But, you know, if we don't have town support, I'll come back to you two. Because theoretically we'll get town support. So in any event, and then from there, so if in the event that Bill agrees that he agrees this is good direction, do you have any issue with me? You think that I should bring it up tomorrow? Just to say in general, I'm not going to share questions because we haven't finalized questions, but just to say that we think as part of our STR process, we think it would be great to get some community input. So, you know, be on the lookout. We're going to be sharing some information about a survey. Jude, you're saying don't even say anything.
I'm saying no, not until we know we have some answers to the questions about the confidentiality and everything else, and what the town has to use and can use.
If it's in service of getting that answered, then yes. But other than that, again, me and you did that in February with Bill and Melanie, and essentially where we got was they were like, "Look, we're not ready to help you with this, and we can't. You should just do what the other boards do and go just put your stuff on Facebook."
Well, so what our question specifically to them was can they build a Facebook page off of the town Facebook page that is for the ZRC? And their answer was, we haven't figured out how to do that. What the question is now is on the Woodstock main Facebook page, can you have a pinned item on the top that says, take the ZRC, you know, take the STR survey? They would probably say yes to that. Their answer to us previously was a technical answer that says, technically, we haven't figured out how to give you your own page, but we own it. That was a technical question. Now we're saying we just want to plop this survey information right on the Woodstock Facebook page that already exists. And I would be surprised if we couldn't. But I'll talk with Bill. I'll let you both know. I'll let you both know tomorrow after I've spoken to Bill, whether he's embracing this idea or whether he sees some reason why he doesn't feel he can embrace it. So I think that'll be a good start.
I think it would be good for us just to make sure that we've got everything in order.
Okay.
Here
so I will. Okay. So I will not bring it up at the town board meeting. I will not publicize it at all at the town board meeting. I'll wait till you're both confident for me to be talking about it, but I will talk to Bill about it tomorrow.
But it is for you, Jude, mostly about the confidentiality stuff. So we just need to talk to the person we want to talk to is whoever can answer that for us definitively.
Right, we need an answer to that. We also need to know, maybe the town can't use SurveyMonkey. I mean, these are all questions, but what platforms are gonna be? Are we gonna be able to find one? I mean, before we start talking about something, I would rather have us ready to roll it out and know that we can do it. I just
Right.
don't want to think about something that's never gonna happen, or, might not happen. I would rather, when we're ready to roll it out, there it is. Because what's going to happen is people are going to start saying, well, where is it, and why don't we see
Right,
it?
right.
We just wait until it's ready to go.
That's
And
fine. Well, yeah, we're not missing a deadline,
right,
so
exactly.
wait till we're ready. Absolutely. That's fine. I'm good with that.
Thank you for doing the legwork on this.
Yes. Well, I'm glad I'm back, and now that I'm back, this is important, so want to do it. Yay. Yay.
Great.
Yay. So
Um,
all good. Okay. So I always do public be heard. We have two public members. We have Heather and Michael. Before I drop off, Heather and Michael, is there anything quick that you wanted to say? And I didn't read the chat, so let me go read the chat.
Oh.
real quick.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Good to see y'all again. Two questions. One, I know there has been talk about adding members to the committee, and I think some people have applied. Is there sort of a timeline for when those decisions might happen?
Well, okay, so here's my hesitation is, as we all know, we're heavy into the STR discussion. And I have a personal worry about adding people who have STRs, which are the only people who have applied, when we're in the middle of the STR discussion. So as you all know, I always do public be heard at the end. I do listen. I don't know how you feel about what Connor and Jude and I are talking about, doing a survey to really gather input. So it's not just three of us with having opinions, but let's get a broader set of opinions. I'm not sure whether you like that idea or don't like that idea, but I'm a little hesitant with Connor, Jude, and I, as we work this together. I'm a little hesitant to say, let's add people when we're in the midst of this STR discussion, especially when the people who've applied have STRs. So I think it's more.
The other, and
Go ahead, Connor.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I broke up a little bit. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I don't mean to speak out of turn, but the other thing is that, there is, in my experience, not been a literal time frame to do those things in. When you have a functional, quorum, we have, it's not about just putting someone in there to put them in there because a seat needs to be filled. It's about finding someone with the right experience and the right qualifications, as well as not being interested in a financial and entanglement sense with any of the issues that we are grappling with. So it is something that I want to acknowledge I've heard discussed, but it's not the kind of thing that happens on any time frame. You have to find the right person. You don't just put someone in there.
Yeah. So anyway, so yes, you heard Connor's Connor's response, and I know that as a voting town board member, again, my hesitation is adding an STR owner, because the only applicants so far have been STR owners. I do have a hesitation to add an STR owner to the mix when we're in the midst of the STR discussions, because I am listening and public be heard to what Michael, what you've said and what others have said. So that's anyway, so it's all being considered. Everything's being considered.
Right, so no timeline. The other question I had is looking at the survey. I'm a little, I put in the comments, I'm not sure what the purpose is of asking about what is your primary residence, but I put in the chat that is sort of a confusing term that has lots of different meanings and definitions for different uses. And I think it can be off-putting for people. Different for different aspects of one's life, one can be listing different primary residences. So I'm not sure what it's asking. Instead, maybe you could say, do you own a home in Woodstock? Do you rent in Woodstock? Do you own a home somewhere else in addition? Do you rent a home anywhere else in addition? If you're trying to get a sense of who's, if someone is more full-time here, or you can say how many, what percentage of your time do you stay in Woodstock? I think you need to define what the purpose of the question is, but primary residence, I think, is confusing. And I'm just a little concerned. I unfortunately didn't know that the meeting was happening, and I missed the good chunk of it. But is the purpose of the survey specifically to gather information from people who are full-time residents of Woodstock, or is it trying to get information more broadly, including part-time residents?
I say it's to get information more broadly. And as we've said in here, right now, the one question is what's your current or former, in case somebody doesn't have any address, they might want to give their former address, but we need an address for them. And then, is this your primary residence? Yes or no. We're not saying we're discounting their input if they say no, but we are going to discount their input if we can't verify their street address at all.
But,
if they have given us
how would you, so you're just trying to verify, this is all for verifying identification?
Well, these are real people. We don't want to have one person giving in 500 responses.
No, of course, you don't want sock puppets.
Yeah.
Or
so that's the whole point of this. But they ought to be giving us a street address that is valid, whether it's their current street address or a former one. And we're just saying, is this yes or no? We haven't said, what we've said is if we can't verify the name or street address, we're not going to consider the submission.
But so I don't see why you need to ask the question, is it your primary address? If whatever their address puts, you can check a database and make sure there's a person there. If it's just to make sure there's no false imposters, submitting multiple responses, I just think it's sort of confusing. My other concern, I think it's off-putting to people who are part-time residents. I thought the question was there to screen responses either on top or so you can discount them. And I think it sort of goes to the heart of the question that we've been bringing up all the time, whether part-time residents who also sometimes rent out STRs are considered part of the Woodstock community or not. So I'm getting a whiff from the way it's phrased that it's sort of designed to discourage part-timers from.
Okay, well, anyway, I'm going to turn the light on because I'm starting to be in a big shadow here. So I'm going to let Jude answer. I'm listening. It's going to take me 2 seconds to go ahead.
Your point. We heard you. We hear your point. It's okay. We got it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to make a change. Honestly, I think it's handy to, I think it's just information for us to know. So that's my opinion. I think it's handy for us to know, is the street address your primary residence, yes or no?
So define primary residence, because it has 10 different meanings in the law.
Laura, I think
it doesn't mean one thing.
It's almost 8:15. So can we hear if Heather has anything?
Okay, Heather, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I had the similar concern about primary residence. If that's something that's of importance, I think you need to clearly define it. I also want to mention that the folks at the ethics board said that there's no problem with STR members joining this committee, STR owners, just as, property owners, people that live in the community, all of those people are entitled to be on these committees. So I just want to raise that issue because it was brought to the ethics board and they came to a unanimous conclusion that someone that owns an STR could very well participate in this and perhaps even help you guys do an even better job. I have come out very clearly that I feel.
You're saying though that it's one thing to say that an STR owner could be on the zoning revision committee, but I think it's an entirely different thing to say whether or not they would have to recuse themselves from the issue.
Yeah, and they said that there would not need to be a recusal. The ethics board's brought it went.
And the ethics board has also allowed a lot of other things to fly in the face of, objectivity in the past that doesn't make them the end all be all of consideration. As a citizen of this town, would be concerned if every time there was anything to do with STRs that I couldn't count on the impartiality of people to separate their financial interests from the board and the powerful position they find themselves in. That leaves all kinds of questions open. Can
Well, I
it
think
be?
that both you and Jude both clearly have a very biased perspective on this concern. And maybe you don't have any financial interest in it, but you probably do. And
Well,
I just
okay.
don't think it's totally
Yeah.
entitled. I just don't, I think that you.
Well, hang on. So we,
No, you can't go at it that way. We are
I
residents.
can, because I've watched every single meeting,
Okay.
and you guys clearly do
Heather,
not respect part-time renters.
Okay, Heather,
Jude.
we perhaps we do bring a point of view, but I will tell you quite clearly, having served on the planning board, the ZBA, and everything else, that I have to sign a form at the beginning of the year having to do with the ethics board. Do I have a financial interest? If you have a financial interest, you are supposed to recuse yourself. And the HOTF recently, some of those people resigned because it was shown that they had a financial interest in discussions to revise the zoning law. So I don't, whatever the question was posed to them, I guarantee you, it wasn't that you could participate in making the laws that affect you personally, financially. Secondly, we're all having discussions about this. There clearly we were asked to look at the STR law because it's not working. And a lot of people are very unhappy about it. So I understand where you're coming from. There's no question that you have an interest and you are advocating for that. Does that qualify you to be on this committee when everybody else has had some other service in the town having to do with planning, the ZBA, the planning board, the town board, whatever it is?
It's not just me. There were other people that interviewed for the
Oh,
position.
yeah, I gotta tell you, I'm gonna call a halt.
That's fine.
We heard, Michael, what you said. We heard, Heather, what you said. I think that this back and forth discussion is at the moment not actually helping anything. So in any event, I do think that the survey is a way to broaden the view of the three of us who are currently working on the STR law. I think that's the whole point of the survey, is to broaden our view and not just take the handful of people that do join this call and what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? There's 5 of us right now that each have strong opinions. It's to broaden it beyond the 5 of us who happen to be on the call right now. So in any event, that's the whole purpose of this survey. So that's where we are right now.
So I think you should make sure that the survey is very inclusive. And I think that if you want to know whether someone's primary residence, you need to define what that is.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't think the survey is a bad idea, but I think you need to define your terms because, for example, I vote in Woodstock and therefore it could be considered my primary residence, but you guys wouldn't necessarily want me to be considered a primary resident.
Well, but if it's your voting residence, then that's your primary. We talked before, and it may have been before you got on the call, we talked about maybe it's your star, when you have a property tax, your star says, or what address do you put when you do your income tax? Right.
I'm just saying you should be clear about it so that people can complete the question.
Because those are all, my point is those are all different things. So define what you mean by primary residence on the form. Do you vote here?
Okay.
Where is your car registered? Ask what you're asking, because
Guys,
no answer to primary residence.
All right,
standing
I'm
alone.
going to be kicked off of this call in a moment anyway because I'm running out of battery. But I just have to remind everyone, we're doing this in public for a reason. We made this survey today, mostly based on my tangential solo input from before, and it is clearly like, if you watched any amount of this and thought that we were not being inclusive and trying to be inclusively minded in how we considered the questions and how we really went out of our way to make sure our thumbs were not on the scale, then I don't think you were actually here. We are very considerate of being inclusive. We are very considerate of using unbiased language, and we will get there. Whether or not we agree with you in this case, which maybe we will consider it. I'm not walling myself off to anything. I do not take intransigent positions just for the sake of doing it. If I seem passionate, I have a reason. That does not mean I am walled off or disrespectful to anybody. And I will take kindly any critique brought my way or the way of this board that is brought earnestly and kindly. So if I lose you in the next few seconds, I apologize. I am looking at a 1% battery, but
Yeah.
I am proud of, I'll say it again, I largely am proud of this board and the efforts we have gone through to tackle hard issues. This is one of the hardest we've had, and we are, I think, you know, doing a very good job, and we're doing it in daylight. So thank you.
Yeah, and I do want to say, if you have one more minute of juice on your machine, I just want to say, I work with Connor and Jude for a long time at this point, and they are both doing their very best to do the best for Woodstock. I will work with anybody who is putting Woodstock first. I have never gotten, you know, they just, yeah, everybody has a different view of what's best for Woodstock, and that's fair because everybody has a different life experience. But I love working with Connor and Jude because they both care so deeply about Woodstock and are willing to volunteer their time on different boards and different committees because of that. So I just want to say how much I appreciate what both Connor and Jude have done. I am going to close the call because everybody has spoken. I made a note that you said about defined primary residence, got that. And you may agree, you may disagree, but as Connor says, we're an open meeting, and I do listen to what everybody has to say before we get off the call. But at this point, everybody has spoken, so I am gonna close the call.
Good
Thanks
night,
everybody. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thanks, Laura.